Hey everybody, Pastor Jay here with another Scripture Saturday. Today we're looking at Genesis chapter 5. And right away there's some things that you're going to notice. You're going to notice some names that are maybe a little bit challenging to say, maybe not. There's Semitic names. You're going to notice that people lived a really long period of time. And what's always kind of piqued my interest was the question of, I wonder what they would have looked like when they were 120 years old. Would they have looked like they were 25? Would they have looked like they were 30? What would they have looked like? And really what we should take away from the fact that they lived a long period of time is that they were probably left wondering, when is this going to end? The average age for us now is right around 70, 73, 74. They lived vastly longer, and we know what that looks like. We tend to know what death ultimately causes the person to look like when they get lowered into the ground. For them, they had people that lived 930 years. They had people that lived 800 years, 900 years, 969 years. They lived such a long period of time. And what they also lived with was this knowledge that it didn't have to be that way, but it was that way because of Adam. What we see here in this text is a list of 3 individuals that catch our name right off the bat, and they're names of murderers. And yet the first one you might not necessarily think about right away is Adam. And you might say, well, what did Adam do that was murder? It was you. Romans chapter 5 talks about how death entered the world, that sin entered the world through the one man, Adam, and through that sin all were made sinful. And right around the third verse of chapter 5, it says, and Adam lived 130 years, and he had another son. And then what's interesting is the small detail that probably many people overlook, where it says, Adam had another son in his image and in his likeness. And if you remember the creation account, God made us in his image and in his likeness. And so what is God revealing to us? That when God made everything and we were made in his image, we were perfect, we were holy, we were right, we were just, we did everything flawlessly. We were children that God was grateful to have, and he loved us so severely because we were just like him. But then sin entered the world through the decisions of Adam. And I know you might be thinking about Eve, but Adam is the one who gets the blame. Adam is the one who gets the charge of the crime of murder. Because through Adam's inability to sit there and go after his wife to protect her and confront the devil and say, no, this is not lawful in the eyes of God. We will not sin against God. We will worship him as he is, trusting in his promises. Adam did the exact opposite. He ate the fruit. And Adam is the one who gets all the blame for our sickness, all the blame for our murder, all the blame for our pain, all the pain for our suffering. He gets that. And it says in there in verse 3, that he had another son in his image and in his likeness, which means flawed, broken, evil, sinful, corrupt completely. That's the nature of being made in the image of Adam. And there's a long list of names that follow after him. Methuselah is probably one of the most well-known ones because he lived for so long. But there are other names, specifically the lineage of murder. You have Adam that's mentioned, and then towards the end of chapter 5, you have the name Cain that's mentioned, who killed his brother Abel. But it's in connection to Cain's son, Lamech. And Lamech tells us that he killed a man for just touching him, for just injuring him. And he talks about how if Cain was marked for killing one man, then 7-fold is what was connected to Lamech. And so what we have here, this teledoth of this genealogy, is you have Adam, the first man, perfect, made in the image of God, caretaker of all of creation, then murderer of all humanity, and way that which all sin came in, that had a son in his image, and not an image of righteousness, but an image of wickedness. And that image is seen in all of us, but so pointedly in his sin with Cain. And in Cain, Lamech. And that's the world that we see existing at this moment, a lineage of murder and flawed images and likenesses going around because of the image of Adam that we're all born with. But then it ends this wonderful section by bringing about Noah. And it really sets the stage for what we're going to look at in a few months with Genesis chapter 6, the promise of a flood that was coming and why it was coming and what God's solution was that was provided. This is the world in which Noah lives. It's a world of flawed people, murderers, those that do wicked things all the time. And Noah was not a perfect person, as we're going to hear the next time we look at Genesis. He was the best one of his day. He was the best of the worst. He was the one who God said, I'm going to preserve this one. And that's what we're going to look at next time. But the great takeaway from all of this, and this entire genealogy from the first man to Noah, and a story of murder and how that affects us, what we see is also the promise of God being preserved that was made to Adam and the woman Eve in the garden and was being shared through the ages to Noah. And how Noah would bring about that promise to your story as well. When you look at your family tree, no doubt there's people that are in it that you are super proud that they're a part of it. And then there are others that you're like, we don't really talk about them too much. One day, people are going to look at their family lineage and they're going to see you. And the question is it going to read in there, made in the image of Adam, or is it going to be in there, made in the image of God? Because from Adam and from Noah, through all of this, was the promise of a descendant that would come, that would save all of humanity, that would bring life. And the name of the woman that was given to that first woman, Eve, the mother of all living, was declared that her offspring, a seed that would come from her, Jesus, would bring about all living for people that were made in his image. When you look at the people that surround your life, don't see the troubled people, the ones that you wish, I wasn't as connected to them as you were. See people that God has placed in a story of redemption, a story of salvation, a story that is of flawed people, but a story that would be redeemed and saved through the one that was made for us, to deliver to us once again the image of God restored. Friends, we'll leave you with this. Feel free to tackle the questions in the comments section in this post, and feel free to add your own comments or answers or questions. God hold you in the hollow of his hand, and I look forward to seeing you again. God bless you.